Greetings! Before I tell this story, I would ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stories like this. And now we begin our story.
Discovering the hidden truth. Callum had begun to notice subtle shifts in Eamon's behavior that set off warning bells in his mind. Their conversations, once effortless and light, became strained and awkward, shadowed by an uneasy tension. Eamon's usual warmth was replaced by a distant coolness, and there were moments when his eyes darted nervously around the room, avoiding Callum's gaze. The change unnerved Callum, but he hesitated to confront it directly, fearing he might be imagining things. It was Juniper, his closest friend and confidant, who finally urged him to open up about his suspicions. Juniper had always been sharp and perceptive, someone attuned to the undercurrents that others missed. She listened intently as Callum described the oddities in Eamon's demeanor. Together, they pored over each strange incident, each offhand comment and glance, trying to piece together the puzzle. It was during one late-night conversation, when Callum revealed a passing comment Eamon had made about Serafina and Thalia, that Juniper's expression darkened. The way Eamon had spoken, casually, almost boastfully, about his interest in them, made Juniper's concern grow into alarm. With a mix of dread and determination, Juniper and Callum took a bold step and confided in Idris, a trusted mutual friend known for his thoughtful advice and grounded perspective. Idris listened without judgment and encouraged them to gather any evidence quietly but carefully. They knew confronting Eamon without proof could backfire, so they began to observe him more closely, sharing notes and syncing their observations. The more they watched, the clearer it became that Eamon was orchestrating something twisted and deliberate. Eamon's focus on Serafina and Thalia was no accident. The way he sought out their company under innocent pretenses, the subtle compliments laced with hidden agendas, all painted a disturbing picture. Callum struggled to process the betrayal. Every time he saw Eamon laughing with Serafina or exchanging glances with Thalia, a sharp pang of pain stabbed through him. The friends, usually so carefree and full of life, were now unwitting pieces in a cruel game. Mira, often silent but ever observant, began to voice her suspicions privately to Juniper, noting the changes in group dynamics and Eamon's unusual insistence on being where these girls gathered. Callum's heartbreak was matched only by his growing resolve. He knew he could no longer stand by as Eamon plotted behind his back. The thought that the person he trusted most might be seeking intimacy with all his close friends, especially those he felt protective of, ignited a flame of fierce determination. Together with Juniper and Idris, Callum started crafting a plan, not just to expose Eamon's intentions, but to protect Serafina, Thalia, and the integrity of their friendship circle. Each day brought new challenges. Callum wrestled with waves of doubt and betrayal, his emotions swinging between disbelief and anger. Juniper remained a steady anchor, offering unwavering support and strategic ideas to outmaneuver Eamon's advances. Idris handled the practical sides, gathering information discreetly while ensuring their circle remained united. Mira's quiet observations proved invaluable. She noticed when Eamon slipped, when his mask faltered, and she shared these moments to build their growing case. As the situation escalated, Callum's relationship with Serafina and Thalia deepened, bound by a shared sense of vulnerability and solidarity. They were caught in a web spun by someone they once trusted unconditionally. The realization that Eamon targeted them not for genuine affection but as trophies in a selfish pursuit was a brutal blow, yet it also strengthened their bond, uniting them in resilience and resolve. Callum found himself more protective than ever, determined to shield them from further harm while confronting the painful truth of betrayal. For the first time, Callum also confronted the complexity of friendship and trust. He understood that people could harbor darkness beneath charming facades. The shock of Eamon's plan was profound, but it became a critical moment of awakening for him, highlighting the importance of vigilance and communication. Juniper's unwavering loyalty and insight turned out to be his greatest ally in navigating this emotional storm. Together, they faced the harsh reality with courage beyond their years. Meanwhile, Eamon remained oblivious to the unraveling of his scheme. His arrogance blinded him to the alliances forming behind his back, to the quiet conversations and exchanged glances that signaled a united front. Callum's determination was slowly transforming from passive suspicion to active defiance. He was no longer a victim, but a force ready to reclaim trust and dismantle the illusions Eamon had created. The stakes had never felt higher, and preparing for what lay ahead became urgent. As tensions simmered, subtle shifts occurred within the group. Patterns that once seemed insignificant now carried weight. A knowing glance here, a tense silence there. The friends braced themselves for the confrontation that loomed on the horizon. What began as whispered doubts had evolved into a mission to safeguard their friendships and confront the cruelty masked by Eamon's charm. Mira's role as observer became critical in timing the right moment to expose the truth. Callum's inner turmoil was intense, but it fueled his resolve. He realized that silence and ignorance would only embolden Eamon. With Juniper's guidance and Idris's support, he prepared to unmask Eamon's deception, ready to face the consequences no matter how painful. The trust broken would need healing, and the friendships tested would require forgiveness. But first, the truth had to come to light. In this crucible of betrayal and courage, Callum discovered not only the dark depths of human manipulation, but also the strength found in unity. Together with his friends, he was forging a path through the chaos, determined to emerge stronger on the other side. The coming days promised revelations and reckoning, setting the stage for battles fought not just with words, but with the resilience of love and loyalty. This chapter closes on the cusp of confrontation, with Callum standing at a crossroads between despair and empowerment. The hidden truths had surfaced, challenging everything he believed in. Yet amidst the shadows, the flicker of hope burned brighter than ever, lighting the way toward justice and healing. The next chapter would hold the answers, the confrontations, and the choices that would define all their futures. Rallying allies and facing the conflict, Callum's mind raced as the revelation settled like a stone in his chest. Eamon's twisted plan to pursue every one of Callum's friends was like a storm darkening an already fragile sky. The betrayal cut deeper than he had imagined, and he knew the time for silent suffering had ended. Guided by a flicker of courage and armed with insights from Idris, he resolved to gather his closest allies before the conflict could spiral out of control. Juniper was the first person he turned to, not just because of her unwavering loyalty, but also her sharp intuition and fierce protective nature. Together they mapped a cautious approach, focusing on confronting the truth rather than igniting chaos. The delicate web of emotions entangling the friend group made the situation far more complex than a simple confrontation. Serafina's reaction was crucial. She was not only one of Eamon's targets, but also her own sense of self and loyalty were now on trial. When Callum approached her, his voice steadied by Idris's calm counsel, he offered understanding rather than accusation. Serafina's guarded eyes reflected a painful mix of hurt and confusion, revealing the inner turmoil she had struggled to suppress. Their exchange planted the seeds for a larger conversation, one that would require all friends involved to consider their bonds and individual choices without judgment. Thalia's involvement, though strained, proved necessary for the fragile alliance Callum sought to build. Initially defensive and skeptical, Thalia revealed her own fears about loyalty and trust within the group. Her voice, oftentimes sharp, softened under the weight of shared pain. As tensions simmered, Mira's role as an impartial observer became invaluable. Quiet and thoughtful, Mira wove observations into the unfolding dynamic with a clarity that cut through emotional fog. Her perspective highlighted how deeply Eamon had manipulated not just feelings but perceptions, creating ripples of doubt that threatened to fracture the once tight-knit circle. The gathering of friends in Callum's living room became a crucible where truth and emotion collided. Juniper's support steadied Callum's resolve as he carefully articulated the reality of Eamon's intentions. It was not just about betrayal, but about reclaiming respect and protecting the integrity of their friendships. One by one, voices rose, revealing vulnerabilities and fears that had long been bottled up. The air thickened with a blend of pain and determination, yet beneath it all, a cautious hope emerged. Idris reminded them all of the power in confronting darkness together rather than succumbing to fracture and blame. Throughout the evening, the question of loyalty remained central. Each friend wrestled with their own sense of devotion to Callum and to the group's unity. Juniper's fierce defense of Callum's character and her refusal to channel anger into hatred inspired others to seek understanding rather than vengeance. Seraphina's courage in admitting her conflicted feelings fostered an atmosphere where honesty took precedence over resentment. Thalia's realization that mistrust could poison friendships propelled her to suggest ways to rebuild bridges. Mira, ever the observer, encouraged reflection on how fear can cloud judgment and urged everyone to see beyond momentary pain. As the night unfolded, Callum found strength not only in his allies' support, but in the shared vulnerabilities uncovered through open dialogue. Eamon's scheme, once a source of division and despair, had inadvertently unearthed deeper bonds and the resilience of true friendship. The group faced a new challenge, healing the wounds without turning the conflict into a battleground of accusations. With Idris quietly guiding the tone, the friends acknowledged that the journey ahead required patience, empathy, and mutual respect. They recognized that confronting manipulation meant reclaiming their narrative and refusing to be pawns in someone else's game. Every conversation peeled back layers of fear and doubt, exposing emotional wounds that needed care. Callum's leadership shifted from reaction to intention as he navigated through hurt and betrayal toward reconciliation. The trust that once seemed shattered slowly began to mend, stitching together moments of courage, forgiveness, and genuine listening. Juniper's unwavering support empowered not only Callum but the entire group to confront their pain collectively rather than face isolation. Seraphina's quiet resilience emerged as a testament to the strength found in vulnerability, inspiring others to lower their guards. Mira's gentle observations offered a grounding perspective when emotions threatened to overwhelm. She reminded everyone that while Eamon's actions sparked the crisis, the group's reaction defined its future. With every confession and apology, the friends redefined loyalty beyond blind allegiance into a space where honesty and compassion coexisted. Thalia's willingness to face uncomfortable truths without retreating set a tone of accountability that encouraged healing. Idris's steady presence bridged gaps between anger and understanding, underscoring the importance of empathy in the aftermath of betrayal. By the time dawn's first light nudged away the darkness, a fragile yet hopeful peace had settled. The night's difficult conversations had not erased pain but transformed it into a foundation for renewed trust and solidarity. Callum felt the weight in his chest ease slightly, buoyed by the strength of allies who chose to stand beside him rather than crumble. Juniper smiled with quiet pride, reflecting the unspoken promise that they would face the complexities ahead as a united front. Seraphina, Thalia, and even Mira bore the marks of emotional labor, yet their commitment to friendship transcended the shadows cast by Eamon's deceit. The experience forced them all to question the true meaning of friendship, trust, and loyalty in circumstances where betrayal threatened to unravel everything. It was a harrowing journey through vulnerability and confrontation that none had anticipated but one necessary to safeguard the bonds they cherished. As they prepared to move beyond this chapter, Callum knew the path forward required courage and patience, knowing the next steps would test their resolve once more. The foundation laid tonight, however imperfect, set the stage for facing the challenges ahead with clearer eyes and stronger hearts, choosing strength and seeking justice. When Callum first uncovered Eamon's shocking plan, his heart hammered with disbelief and anger mingled with a fierce determination. Eamon had been scheming to be intimate with every single one of Callum's closest friends, including Seraphina, betraying the trust so many had placed in him. This was not just a betrayal of Callum's relationship, but a cruel manipulation of genuine friendships. Callum realized he could not let this deceit slide quietly. It was time to act boldly and with intelligence. Callum quickly reached out to Juniper, his steadfast best friend, who always stood by him through thick and thin. Together, they mapped out a strategy that prioritized exposing Eamon's intentions while protecting the group from further pain. Juniper's calm reasoning balanced Callum's passionate resolve, forming a partnership that was both fierce and prudent. They planned how to reveal Eamon's manipulations to everyone without causing unnecessary collateral damage. As he called the friends together, Seraphina's shocked expression mirrored his own feelings. Thalia looked downcast but ready to listen, while Idris remained a reliable figure of calm support, offering clear-headed advice throughout. Mira, always observant and thoughtful, maintained a neutral stance but suggested ways to strengthen the group's bond in the aftermath. The moment held a tension charged with hurt and disbelief, yet beneath it all was a shared yearning for truth and healing. Callum began by showing proof of Eamon's plan: texts, whispered confessions, and fragmented stories Eamon could not deny. The evidence struck deep. Some friends felt betrayed beyond words, others steeled themselves to confront their feelings. Despite the emotional turmoil, no one could ignore the gravity of the situation. Callum's voice, steady yet trembling with the weight of revelation, emphasized that this collective betrayal did not mean the end of their friendships, but a call to rebuild with honesty as a foundation. Juniper took the lead in calming the group, encouraging each person to express their emotions freely. Seraphina's tears spoke volumes about her sense of personal violation, yet she also voiced a desire to regain her strength and self-respect. Thalia's quiet presence reminded everyone that forgiveness was difficult but possible. Idris, with his wise advice about boundaries and trust, helped the group start envisioning a future where respect replaced deceit. While the aftermath rippled through the circle of friends, Callum remained at the center, embodying resilience and protective strength. He knew this was not just about stopping Eamon, but about setting a precedent for their community emotionally and ethically. By calling out Eamon's manipulative pattern and refusing to let selfish ambition go unchecked, Callum stood up not only for himself, but for every friend Eamon had targeted. Mira's reserved but insightful observations helped cast a light on the subtle ways relationships could be repaired, with time and effort. Her neutral perspective encouraged the group to focus on healing rather than endless blame. She suggested group meetings to foster open communication and trust-building exercises to mend the fractures caused by Eamon's deceit. Her role as observer and facilitator grew more important as the friends committed to rebuilding their bonds. The collective courage shown by Callum and his friends inspired them to confront their shared pain honestly and determinedly. Each friend took a personal step toward forgiveness, understanding that strength arose not from denying hurt, but from facing it head-on. Callum's leadership helped transform a crisis of trust into a turning point, where vulnerability became a stepping stone to resilience. They crafted a safety net of solidarity poised to withstand future trials. Together, the group created a new code of respect and openness to safeguard their friendships. Callum's deep belief in justice propelled an unwavering commitment to protect each other from exploitation or betrayal again. The confrontation with Eamon's calculated intentions became a catalyst for empowerment rather than destruction. As wounds began to heal, the friends discovered renewed confidence in their ability to stand strong together. With the dust settling, it was clear this chapter was not just an ending, but the start of something more meaningful. Callum, Juniper, and the others had proven the extraordinary power that arises when one chooses strength and justice over silence and submission. Their journey forward promised lessons in perseverance, loyalty, and emotional courage. As they moved beyond the pain, their bonds reshaped into something more authentic and enduring. Now, as they prepared for what lay ahead, new challenges awaited, challenges they would meet armed with hard-earned wisdom and unshakable trust. The night's revelations had changed them forever, but not broken them. Callum's role as protector and leader was solidified, setting a course toward healing and growth. Side by side, they faced a future where respect reigned supreme and justice was a shared responsibility. With hearts steadied and spirits lifted, the group stepped forward, ready to turn the page and build a stronger story, a story where truth was a shield and friendship an unbreakable bond. The lessons learned from Eamon's betrayal would echo as they ventured onward, emerging wiser, closer, and more resolute. The journey was far from over, yet a newfound hope glimmered brightly in their united stride.